What's up, y'all? I got some what's up, y'alls in me today. They're just coming up, so there may be several of these giving you. Sorry, you're getting my unadulterated loose boobs in front of my breakfast today. That's epic. This is my, period meal. Anyway, this just occurred to me. It just occurred to me. You know, I get asked often, and I do a lot of work around cancel culture and calling out and calling in, and you know, the way that I talk about calling on. Oh, hello, pimple. And I'm always in a tension in the conversation, particularly when I'm having this conversation with white people. And I was just sitting here talking through that tension. And what I realized is that I am suspicious of white people who have a real deep investment in changing the nature of calling in and calling out, or like cancel culture is so bad, this railing against. I have a real deep suspicion of it. And I have a deep suspicion of it because I find that underneath it, that the subtlety that's moving through that narrative is, you know, be nicer to me. Right? It's that be nicer to me thing. And so it isn't actually about a political or an ideological position about how we be in right relationship. It's about the discomfort of accountability and responsibility. And can we adopt this thing that makes us less uncomfortable? And every time I notice whiteness trying to move back towards comfort, what I notice is whiteness trying to reaffirm itself in its positionality of white supremacist delusion. Every time, whiteness and comfort is the codification of white supremacist delusion. At this point in the trajectory of our world and our history, if white people aren't uncomfortable every single day, we haven't changed anything. We're not changing nothing. You should feel uncomfortable. And I'm going to connect this. Last year, and this morning I've been watching videos about spiritual awakenings. Last year, I went through a massive spiritual awakening. And I've shared about this in multiple platforms. If you listen to any of the podcasts I did in 2020, or my graduation conversation, I did a couple of commencement speeches, and all of them, I talk about this spiritual awakening. And it was all of 2020 and moving into 2021, all of it was marked by this massive overhaul of my entire internal being. And there wasn't a comfortable day in it, y'all. There wasn't one comfortable, and that doesn't mean every day was painful. That doesn't mean every day was, grueling or sad or awful, right? Because those things are not synonymous. Discomfort doesn't necessarily mean pain. I was wildly uncomfortable to do that video where I wept and sobbed because my community had paid off 6 figures worth of student loans for me. That wasn't comfortable, because miracles rarely are. Right? And so part of the problem is that we have some definitions mixed up. We assume that discomfort means pain. And that's not necessarily the truth. And so what does it look like to welcome some discomfort, recognizing that oftentimes what discomfort is indicating for us is an opening for transformation? Because your comfort is actually been to the detriment of not only you, but you can't see it, but the detriment to all your relationships, the detriment to all of the other things that could grow and be fertile in that space. And so when we decide to be uncomfortable, when we allow discomfort to exist in us, to really reside in us, what we're doing is we are saying, I am going to continue to hold open the change that wants to come forth. And that requires tension. And that requires the use of a muscle that I might not be used to using. Right? That's uncomfortable. To hold a thing for a long time is uncomfortable. But it's also strength building. Right? It's also character building. It's development. And at the end of it is transformation. And so, to go back to this call out, like stop calling people out dynamic, what is in it is we don't want to be made uncomfortable. And so we want you to do a thing that is nicer for us so that we can, I can address the issues, but I'm not really going to change. Because you cannot change in comfort. I mean, on a practical level, you have to take off clothes in order to put on new clothes. In order to literally change, you have to move from one state in order to invite another state in. There's a period of time where you have to take your shirt off. Guess what? You can't see with your shirt over your head. There's a period of time where you got to pull your pants up. Right? That means some things are obscured from you in that moment. Right? Like that's just the natural state of change in its most literal terminologies. And so there is a suspicion that I hold. As much as I deeply believe in figuring out how we deal with one another with more compassion, more grace, more love, right? As much as I deeply hold that as a value, I hold at the same time that whiteness is a sneaky, self-deluding, long-term malady that requires vigilance to stay on top of. And so when I hear white people being really embracing, really, really desiring and wanting people to come and talk about how bad calling out is, what I actually hear is an avoidance of discomfort. And so here's the deal. Until white people are willing to address whiteness and sit inside of their own discomfort, because this is the point of my spiritual awakening in 2020 was I had to be willing to sit in my own discomfort. The conditions of the world, the conditions of the universe, the conditions of my external existence gave me some discomfort. But I could have done all the things in the world to make it more comfortable. I could have done all the things in the world to not have to deal with my grief and to go swallow it and evade it, to continue to reaffirm myself and my areas of dominance, right? I could have done all the things that would have returned me to some semblance of comfort. Or I could sit in the discomfort and wait to be transformed. But that was my choice. And so the problem is until white people as a collective choose to sit in the discomfort of their transformation, such that they know more about themselves than people of color do, than Black folks do, then you're going to have to take the self-awareness that you're not stepping into for yourself because it's uncomfortable. You're going to have to take it in whatever dose it is. The people who have to live at the impact of your delusion, at the impact of your self-avoidance and your self-denial, in whatever way it is they choose to deliver it to you, baby. You're going to have to accept it. Because they wouldn't have to deliver it that way if you would do your own work. If you would usher in your own discomfort and sit in your own discomfort for the purpose of illuminating the shadow that you cannot see right now. And so I want white people to stop having conversations about how bad cancel culture is and calling out is. Until you all are on a collective train, a collective train of self-discovery and self-analysis and intentional transformation, such that I don't have to tell you about you because you're already choosing to explore you. I don't have to tell you about whiteness because you're already excavating it on your own. Because that's how deeply engaged in your own process you are, such that no one else has to pull you up about it. And until that is the space that white people inhabit collectively, I have very little interest, actually, in entertaining conversations about why call out culture is so bad. Because right now, just anything, like any way you name how a white supremacist delusion is killing us is an appropriate way to name it. That's just on my heart. Wanted to share that. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. I'm about to fuck this food up. Bye.